Hello everyone, welcome to this most powerful moment of prayer. Hearing God is one of the beautiful things we enjoy as believers. When Adam and Eve were sent out of the Garden of Eden, what they lost was the easy fellowship with God they had before that time. And that was what the death and resurrection of Jesus restored to us. Hearing from God is one of the greatest benefits of surrendering your life to Jesus. You can talk with God and also hear from Him. The Bible tells us that those who the Spirit of God leads are the sons of God. This means they must have heard God and received instructions from Him and chosen to follow those instructions. Although we can now hear God and receive instructions from Him, God does not force us to obey Him. He always allows us to have free will. Obedience would not be obedience if there were no free will. It takes total trust and dependence on God to fully surrender to Him in obedience. However, you will realize that obedience in itself is a test and comes with rewards. When God instructs you on anything, it tests your devotion to Him and your trust that He has your best interest at heart. It's quite difficult, if not wholly impossible, to consistently obey someone you do not trust because you may be afraid they would instruct you to do something that will hurt you. This is why understanding God's person and trust in Him would make obedience easier. It is similar to a dancer being carried by his partner. No matter how risky it seems, he has to trust that his partner will hold him. It is wiser to stay in obedience to God because, when God leads you, you can trust that He will lead you to good places. Abraham is a great example of obedience. God called him while he was in his father's land and asked him to leave everything behind, to follow him where he would be shown. This feels like one of the most difficult instructions because of how much trust is needed to carry it out. Abraham had no idea where he was going. God did not tell him exactly where he would stop. God only told him that He would show him the land, yet Abraham chose to obey God and he left his father's house. It must have been a difficult decision. His family may not have understood because it was difficult to explain that he was following God who he could not see to a land he did not know. He may have even been labeled crazy, but Abraham followed God's instruction. He became a fool to the normal human mind because he chose to obey. His obedience led him to become the father of many nations, and through his lineage the Messiah came. Abraham not only knew God as his but also trusted Him to follow Him even when he did not know where God was leading him to. It is similar to a person who covers his eyes with a blindfold and is led by another person. The person with a blindfold is dependent on the one leading him. Obedience would cause you to learn surrender and total dependence on God. By choosing to follow God's plan, you will be rewarded. However, our reason for obedience should not be the reward but simply our love for God. When Jesus spoke to His disciples in the book of John about obedience, He stated that if we love Him we will obey Him. Obedience expresses your love for God and brings your heart to a place of sincere trust in God because you no longer are walking by sight. You can no longer depend on your mind, but you can only walk by faith. The truth is God's instructions do not always make sense to the natural human mind. Therefore, if you try to make decisions based on your mind only, you will struggle with obedience. Pray it daily or listen to this video over and over again and allow the Word of God and power in this prayer to reach into your spirit or soul.